Have you ever had a bad day in the bee yard? I saw your picture after that. Oh my God. Sometimes bad things happen to good folks, right? Or good things happen to bad folks, I'm not sure which. Nonetheless, in the beekeeping world, some of those things we can understand, and some of them we can't. We have to simply accept. We may not like it. In our case, we had a fabulous year raising queens. We raised over 60 queens this year. It was fabulous. Put them installed in the hives, which was absolutely fabulous. They emerged, it came out wonderfully, but only 50% of them actually came back. So we ended up with half of our colonies that we started as being queenless. And we understand all the math and everything it takes to get everything going first, but I didn't like the answer. But God did. That sometimes is the case, right? You gotta be okay with sometimes it's not gonna work out the way you want it to work out. But if there's a time that we can understand what it is we're doing and better understand what the bees are trying to do, then we want to do that. So think of that today. I want to help us learn a little bit about bees so that we can do our part well and allow God to do his part. You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, up here. Is it too loud? Okay. Garbled a bit. Let's turn it down. See if that works. Is that better? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Does that work?
Maybe away from your mouth a little.
Away from my mouth. This is the expert over there. Does that work? That's perfect. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. There we go. Is that working now? Better? Not as terrible? Fun? Good. Okay. Okay. There are 3 bees up there. Tell me about the BA up there. What is that? That's a drone, and the drones are female or male? They're male, very good, and the only male in there, okay? So B is a queen, and how many of those are in your colony? One. That's because you stopped looking after you saw the first one. In many cases, you will find that there are actually 2. You may have a mother-daughter pair in there, you just don't know it, okay? All right, and C is, so the other 49,500 bees are all worker bees. Please don't draw the parallel to mammals and to humans, okay? Please don't go there. It just ends badly for the guys, okay? Don't go there. All right? So we're going to learn a little bit about social organization, honeybees. And at the end of this, why this matters to you. Why should you care about what we're going to talk about today? Okay? You all right? But we're also going to have some fun along the way. All right. We have a contest that we're going to do as we go through. But to get us ready for that contest, take that piece of paper that you got. Now, I think it says blue up there for 10 and under. We had to have a technological change because we didn't have a blue bowl. So, anyway, if you have a green, you should have a green paper if you're 10 or under. Think if you're 11 to 20 and white. If you are, then 21 or over. Does everybody have a piece of paper? Okay, great. Fold it in half long ways. Okay, like that. Got it? Okay, perfect. Good. Now, tear it at the fold. Perfect. Now, put those 2 together, like that. Tear them into thirds. So turn a third off, and turn the remaining piece off. And how many pieces of paper do you have now? 6. Perfect. Good. Make sure you have something to write with along the way. Because here's what we're going to do. Along the way, we're going to have some questions pop up. Whenever you see that cue come up, we have a question. If you know the answer to the question, if it's your age group and you know the answer, tell it to your neighbor. Okay? Tell it to your neighbor. And then we'll pop up the answer. And if your answer is correct, write your name on that piece of paper. Okay, write your name on there. At the end, we're going to take all those pieces of papers that have your name on them, put them in the bowls up here. We're going to draw for some prizes. Does that work for us? Okay? So you have 6 chances to win the prize along the way. All right? All right, let's go. Okay. So the first one, for 10 and under. If you're 10 and under, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 2. Okay, good. All right, here we go. 3. All right, your question is, what are the 3 honeybee casts? Tell it to your neighbor. Type of honeybees. 3 casts of 3 types of honeybees. Tell it to your neighbor. Okay. All right. Okay, the answer is queen, drone. Perfect. If that was your answer, write your name on one of those slips of paper. Okay, if you happen to be 10 and under. Perfect. Okay, now there is one question that I have asked for all 12, 13, 14 years we've been in beekeeping. Maybe you've asked the same question. How do you spell honeybee? Let's get an answer on this one. Okay? So etymology of entomology. So etymology is the study of words. Entomology is the study of insects. So let's ask the people in the insect business, in this case, Dr. Snodgrass, Anatomy of Honeybees, 1986, said this: if the insect is what its name implies, write the two words separately, otherwise run them together. So house fly, blowfly, and robber flies are all flies. So what are dragonflies, caddisflies, and butterflies? Not flies. So therefore we cram them together. Isn't that right? Because a butterfly and a dragonfly look nothing like a housefly. You good with that? All right. So, tell me about an apis lion. It's not a lion. And an silverfish. Do you have silverfish at your house? Do they swim? Do they eat much water? No, they don't. They're not, because they're not fish, right? It's just what we call them. All right, so with the magic of Google here, if you go out here, you gotta have a graph in there somewhere. Look at all the English language publications by year and ask yourself, how many times is honeybee spelled as one word? And how many times is it spelled as two words? That's what you're looking at. That's why the percentages are so low, because you're taking all the words that were in the book. So here, you notice that honeybee, one word, did not even appear on the radar screen back here. Because everything was dominated by the science. So if you're a science kind of person, how do you write honeybee? Two words, because it's a true bee, right? It's like a leaf cutter bee is a bee, and a bumblebee is a bee. Nope, you spell it, yes you do. You spell them as two words. You should. All right, so honeybees came on in about 1920s, and then they probably have, but right now, you can spell on Google honeybee. You're going to find out that roughly 60% of the world spells it as one word. You are beekeepers, and I hope you are working your way on entomology. So hopefully I can convince you, spell honeybee as two words. And people give me funny looks and say, that's because I really know how to spell the word. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, you can spell it both ways. If you're in the beekeeping world, probably know how to spell it this way. And that's why it's the Texas Honeybee Education Association. Everybody good with that? All right. Okay, 11 to 20. Here's your hand. You're 11 to 20. 1, 2, 3. Okay, a couple. All right, here's your question. Why is honeybee written as two words? Okay, tell it to your neighbor. Tell the answer to your neighbor. Why is it written as two words? All right, the answer is because it's a true bee, and therefore you write it into bee etymology. Etymologically is correct. I don't know. You're right, okay? Woo! Big words. All right, the answer is because it's a true bee. All right. Sue, come on up here. We got some things up here. God has blessed us, and we want to say thank you to you guys and thank you to him. We produced some jam. This is from our pears. This is spiced pear cranberry jam. Open it up and it will taste like fall to you. Now, if you're not a big jam person, put it on your waffle or your biscuit, or put it even on your pancakes. It'll taste amazing to you.
Put it with a pork roast.
That also works. The reason it's in the large jar is because people gave us large jars this last year, so we filled them with that. In fact, if you brought jars, please put them in the blue bin over there, and we thank you for that, and other folks will enjoy that. We also had a record blackberry harvest, so we were able to produce some blackberry puree jam. And what does that mean? It means that nobody likes the seeds that are in blackberries, right? In a jam, because you don't like them. But what happens if you put the whole blackberry into a Vitamix and spin it up? You chop all of the seeds into little tiny pieces. And since about 60% of the nutrition in a blackberry is in the seed, you eat the seed, you're gonna get a lot more nutrition. So you get a jam that's a little bit gritty, but tastes amazing, and you can taste the fruit. The other thing is we use a pectin that doesn't require a lot of sugar, so all these are very low sugar, about 20% of what you normally have in a jam, okay? So if you enjoy that. But here is something that you can't eat. To tell us about this.
He's really on today. God bless him.
Amen.
Beekeepers, one word. Beekeepers want plants that bloom in the fall and in the middle of August when nothing else is blooming. I am really not interested in something that's blooming in April. Everything is blooming in April. If it'll bloom in October, I'm in. These plants are going to be probably blooming in November, maybe December, and you do nothing to them. This is a aster, so it is a 1-inch flower that looks like a purple daisy. Put it out somewhere. Don't put it up near your house. This thing can get 8 feet tall, and it just kind of leans. Ours leans against the security light post. But it has about 4 zillion purple daisies on it in the middle of November. Carolina climbing fall aster or something like that. I've got some papers about it. This is not a Texas native, so Belinda did not approve. It's from Florida. They grow in the swamps in Florida, Carolina. It grows in my front yard with 0 care. So it's one of those that can do it in very, very acidic soil and gets watered once in a while. Again, it can get 10 feet tall, not particularly wide, kind of looks like a vine, but it's going to be covered in purple flowers and honeybees, 2 words, in November.
And they're in the truck.
And there's a whole bunch of them, and they're in the red Toyota right outside the front door, and we want them all gone, please. Okay, my part is to tell you that honeybees, 2 words, are social, and they're also, well, we'll do social. I am not necessarily a social person. I do very well by myself. Give me a book and some chocolate, and I'm pretty good. I'm going to go home after this and need a book and chocolate. We see this characteristic of social insects when we open up a colony. We did an inspection yesterday. My husband is so organized, and it is such a blessing. He organizes our inspection according to what he expects we're going to need. Now, that may sound normal, but when we got 20-some hives out there, colonies out there, it doesn't do any good to go left to right. I want to know which ones we think are queenless, which ones need a varroa test, which one of them do we think needs more resources, more nectar. And we do all those at one time. It was great. We opened up a colony yesterday, and they were loud. And they just kind of flew in our faces, and we looked at each other and said, this colony is queenless. Sure enough, they are social insects. We see it by their reproductive aspects. Most of the individuals in that colony do not reproduce. The workers can, and when they do, it's trouble. But usually it's the queen. Some of the drones mate, but if they mated with the queen, they're not coming coming back to the hive. So it's a very select number that do. They specialize. Some of them specialize in defense. Some of them specialize in childcare. Depends on, we're gonna learn about that. The second thing is cooperative root care. I didn't have anybody else raise our kids. We raised our kids. Not so when you only live 45 days. We're gonna help each other out on this. And then overlapping generations. So mom, queen, is still in the hive, and more generations are coming. Praise God, lots of generations are coming. Those three characteristics make them a social group of insects. And yeah, it's a really good test question. Okay? They're also, the whole colony is a superorganism. When we lifted off that inner cover yesterday, and we both said to each other, this colony is queenless, they were acting as a superorganism. It wasn't just one or two making individual decisions. They all knew what was going on, and they were reacting to it. The examples that Roger and I talked about, and we chose thermoregulation, keeping the right temperature. There's a queen in there, and inside the queen are the eggs and the sperm. And they gotta keep them at the right temperature because they want the organism to continue. Respiration. How in the world? Well, it's about as slow as a cat. Really slow. And then the reproduction, the whole organism swarms. Some stay, some leave. We're reproducing the entire colony. So those things would make it would make a colony of honeybees, 2 words, a superorganism. They're social, and it's a superorganism. This is for all of us in the room who have, this is for adults. Here's the question. What makes them social insects? What makes honeybees social insects? I just told you about superorganism. Forget that. Go back to the previous slide. What makes honeybees social insects? Talk to your neighbor.
Takes a business, or takes a hive, takes a hive. Takes a hive.
Okay, if you have those answers, write your name on that, one of those 6 pieces of paper. We're gonna put them in the bowls later, and the prizes are really fun. You're gonna enjoy them. They're not fun, they're good. You're gonna enjoy them.
The answers are? Okay, what are the answers? Okay, reproduction. Okay, so there's only one or so limited number of reproducers in the colony. Second one is cooperative brood care, cooperative child care. Okay. Third one is multiple generations in the colony at the same time. So, given that definition, are humans social insects? No, you're not.
They are separate. They are at our house.
Now, wait a minute. Any female in here can be a mom, right? Not so in a honeybee
We
colony.
don't have a queen.
And I'm going to guess that you didn't give your children to some other mother to raise. No, you do have cooperative generations in your house. Multiple generations, yeah. So you have 1 out of 3, so you're kind of sort of social. Yeah. Hey, Elijah, would you come help me, please? Go at the end of the table. Then you go back this way with it. Then you go that way. Perfect. take the plant to Mrs. Farr, please.
Yeah, send it here. Thank
And
you.
thank you to Jean Jeff for this beautiful bouquet. I think it's gonna be in our door prize list, so I'm gonna move it out of the way. I did that over here. Okay, let's press on. So why are honeybees social and why are they superorganisms? Why is always a great question. And when you ask a why question, God is usually an answer to one of those questions, okay? Survival, to create an insect that's going to survive over thousands of years in floods and cold, and you got to have a pretty robust insect to do that. It also have to be one that's generalist. What flowers do honeybees not like? There's maybe a few that they can't get into, right? They just physically can't get in there. But I think there's 130 different food crop species that honeybees. So you have a generalist here. That's what God was designing. Essential. 1/3 of our food that you and I eat is pollinated by honeybee. 2 words. Honeybee. Honey, space, bee, right? And a yummy human food, which is honey. They're the only insect to produce a food that humans can eat. That's pretty cool. So that's one of your answers. Your second choice for why is talk to AI. Here's how AI responded. Age-based specialization. Doesn't this sound like a computer? In honeybees is a natural adaptation to maximize colony efficiency and survival, not a deliberate design by divine. So you get to choose, pick which one you like. There's which your definition is, as to why, but one of those two is probably the right answer. Okay? Let's press on. So how do they actually do this stuff? Well, the magic word is there in stimuli, okay? Sometimes there's things that are external to the colony. What are some things that are external that are going to cause your bees to do stuff? Weather, daylight, temperature, all things that you can't control, right? So that's going to cause your bees to do stuff. There's colony level stimuli, like pheromones here, queenlessness and intruder attack. They're also going to respond when there's not enough need, when there's a need for various resources, pollen, nectar, water. All right, bonus question. How do the bees know when to start drawing comb? Okay, how do you know? Well, if you read American Bee Journal last month, Dr. Thomas Seeley wrote an article on how do bees know when to draw comb. 2 things that they need. Number 1 is food. They need a nectar flow. Nectar flow happening either simulated by you because you're feeding them or because it's actually coming in. The second one is that 60% of the available nectar containing cells are filled. Not down in the brood area, but where nectar or honey would normally be stored. And ask me how they get to 60%. I don't know the answer to that, but somehow they do. Somebody counts them up, I'm sure. But not really. 60%, and then they begin to draw. So it's not only the nectar flow. If there's no need, we don't have enough nectar to store, or we've already got enough, then they're not going to store, not going to draw comb for you. We took a colony of bees back from someone, and it was just jam full of bees, and they were honey bound. But at that time, we took the bees, split them up, gave them additional comb, or gave them additional frames to draw on. Within 1 week, they had drawn out 10 frames and filled them with nectar. There was a colony of bees that knew we need more space, so they freed up the brood nest. And now instead of 2 little patches of brood, I have 5 frames of brood of a colony that I thought was worthless. All happened in 2 weeks' time. So there you go, that's the bees that we work with. Sometimes they respond then here to individual internal stimuli to the bee. Sometimes it's their age. Now, you have hormones inside of you as well, right? Okay? Hormones do things, right? What do they do? They may make you crazy, but I don't know whether they, okay? So we go through puberty in our stage with various hormones. We have various things that we can do and can't do. Same is going to be true of bees. But they have glands that turn on and turn off. We'll see that in just a moment. Diet. What you feed that developing larva determines whether it becomes a queen or a worker. So you are what you eat. So that determines for them, and it also turns on and activates the various genes. Sometimes it's the fat stores, and this is the patella genital, but they have the right materials that they need to produce the royal jelly. So all of those are internal to the bee. So external, colony level, internal. We're going to talk about the bee right now. Talk about the internal stimuli. So what happens out of every bee? Start up here at the top. Bee newly emerges. When they first come out, they're cleaning comb, making their bed, if you say it that way. They're beginning to nurse the young brood. That's in the first week of their life. Second week of life, they're beginning to build some comb. They're receiving food from foragers. Third week of life, they're beginning to work on inside and outside tasks. And lastly, they're going to spend the rest of their life foraging for pollen, nectar, water, and protein. That happens inside of every bee. Every bee will go through that cycle, in that process. Okay, for ages 10 and 11 and 20, here we go. Here's your question. Name one task that worker honeybees do in the first 3 weeks of their lives. Okay, talk to your neighbor. One task that they do. Got it? Okay, give me one, Adeline. Give me what's one of the tasks they do? They clean their comb, okay? Make their bed. What else do they do? They take care of the young, they feed the young, is what they do, yeah? What else? They dispose of bodies, they're undertakers, yeah? What else? They guard the hive, yep. What else? They forage, okay? Out of the first 3 weeks, they usually don't forage. Okay, good. Entomologists call this temporal polyethism. Say it with me, temporal polyethism. Fancy word, okay? Temporal means according to time, or in this case, occurring over a period of time. Polyethism is really two words. Poly means many. We think of a polymer, if you're thinking in the science world. And ethos, which means a behavior or a characteristic. So when you put those together, literally means many behaviors over time. So honeybees and many social insects will go through this. They go through and they change what they can do and when they do it. But every bee will go through the same cycle. Maybe not exactly at the same time, but they will do that. So social insects change. So this is what makes honeybees and beekeeping so interesting. It's because it's not dealing with the same bee. You open your colony this week, and next week it can be completely different, right? Depending on what's going on in the colony. The temporal polyethism, okay? So how does this work? Well, different ages, workers are better suited to perform the tasks. So their main peak may be at day 12, they can produce comb, produce wax. But they can produce it a few days before that, a few days after that as well. But that may be their peak time to do that. To feed the brood, their peak time for those hypopharyngeal glands to come on, it's about day 6, day 7. They can feed before that and they can feed after, but not as well. Each worker performs the same colonies through their lifetime. There's no one worker that says, I'm going to sit there and draw comb. The day I'm born, they're not born, they emerge. From the day I emerge to the day I go forward, my role in life is to draw comb. There is no bee that says that. You can't. There's no bee that says, I'm going to feed brood only, that's all I'm going to do. They must go through this cycle and change. This temporal polyethism is there for them, okay? There is some flexibility in the way God designed it. So what happens if you have a pesticide exposure and a lot of your foragers are dead? Now how does the colony respond to that? Some of those folks are going to progress a little faster. They're still going to progress, but they will go through a little bit faster. So instead of taking 21 days, it may take them 18 to recover. Or they have a disease in the brood area. Kills a whole generation of larvae. Some of those older bees will revert back. Not that they can't, just not as efficient at drawing comb or feeding brood. They'll go back and feed the brood. So it's making sense. So this is why beekeeping is so interesting. You say, what in the world is going on? We've got to ask, where are the bees? What kind of bees are these? Okay? They all look the same to us, but they're very different bees. All right, 11 to 2021, here's your question. What does temporal polyethism actually mean? Tell your neighbor. What does it mean? What does it literally mean? Be sure now, write your name on the slips if you get it right, okay? So what does it actually mean, guys? Many behaviors over time, exactly right. Many behaviors over time. This is the part that we really don't talk a lot about in beekeeping. That's why I wanted to talk about it here. Okay, so when we talk about glands, this is the technicals we're going to get. What are we talking about? Well, bees have glands like you have. Do you have salivary glands? Do you have adrenal glands? Do you have hormonal glands, puberty glands? Yeah, you do. You have all kinds of glands. So here's the honeybee glands, okay? This one here is the hypopharyngeal gland. This is where the brood food is made. That then drains down into this, he doesn't have an esophagus, to the salivary ducts here, drains down into their proboscis, and ultimately ends up into the cell where the bee is, developed bee is. Salivary glands, that's where they produce the enzyme invertase. When they harvest nectar, they're harvesting sucrose, sugar, the same as you would get in table sugar. But honey is actually a mixture of fructose and glucose, two simple sugars. So if you're diabetic, you know that. So that happens because of an enzyme reaction. The same enzyme that's in you is in the honeybees, and it comes from the salivary glands. Mandibular glands is where a lot of pheromones for the queen comes from. They have glands in their feet. If you're really a geek in this world, you can get your name on one of the glands too. So do 4 here. I have no idea what those do. Venom gland, what does the venom gland do?
Sting.
Our sting expert right there produces the venom, exactly right. The turtle glands. Have you noticed when you open your colony of bees, what do some of the bees do? They raise their abdomen. They raise their abdomen and begin to fan. What that raising the abdomen does is open up these glands. They emit a pheromone which says, "Come here, girls, this is where home is." So now, bonus question. If there's only one gland for the queen, the researchers measure this mandibular gland, they say, how is it that the bees know which queen is their queen?
Oh, right. Pheromone.
Pheromone. But what pheromone? That's what this is. It's queen signal. The pheromone that they actually smell is a mixture of all of these. So what comes from here, from the mandibular gland, the tarsal gland, these other glands here, even back here. That all mixes together in various proportion to give you a different signal or a different smell. So that's how you can have 10 colonies lined up. The bees know exactly where to go back to because their queen smells differently, not just because of what's in one, oops, let me go back here, not because of what is in one gland here, but in the mixture of glands. Isn't that cool? Okay, so you got 7 mixtures of paint. How do I mix all those together to get a different color? You got a lot of possibilities, right? So you can have 50 or 100 hives in the same apiary and they'll all find their way home. And that's one of the ways they do it, by smell as well as by sight. Okay? Pretty cool. That's fine. All right. 21 and older, here we go. What gland produces the royal jelly initially fed to all developing larvae? What is the gland? The jelly gland. Good job, Mike. You get to write your name on no papers as well. Okay. All right, answer is hypopharyngeal gland. That's correct. Hypopharyngeal gland. That's correct. The only one that's right here. Yeah. It's actually in that little shape there. Yep. Hypo. Hypo means below, right? Hyper means above. Okay. All right. Here we go. This on. Okay. Now, this is a lot of stuff, and I said, how in the world can I understand this? And how can I make it in a way that maybe is understandable for all of us to grab onto? I'm a simple guy here. So when you break it out, you have 3 21-day cycles happening here. For 21 days, there's reproduction happening where a bee is being produced, a worker bee is being produced. For 21 days, she's going to do stuff in the hive. 3 different things. For 21 days, she's going to be outside the hive. That makes it kind of simple, right? 21 days here, make the bee, 21 days to work in the hive, and 21 days working outside. So you may add those two together and say, well, she only lives 42. Well, these are biological systems. Depending upon temperature, the number of days that they can live and die changes. So it's not like on day 7 this happens, on day 8 this is. So they're all flexible a little bit, okay? Now, when they work inside the hive, they work in the center of the hive, throughout the hive, and at the periphery, at the top of the bottom of the hive. So we're going to talk about that in just a second here. Okay, in and under. How long does it take to make a new worker bee? Answer is 21 days. How many days is an egg? How many days is the larva? How many days is the pupa? Perfect, good job. Okay. All right. Jamie Ellis out of the University of Florida, he also runs the classroom article section in the American Bee Journal. By the way, read the Bee Journal, it's a great publication. Put this little chart together to help explain this temporal polyethism. So at the hive center, these are the bees that are the youngest. You can see some of the tasks up there that they do. But the thing I want you to notice here is the overlap. So here from 0 to 10 days, they can do these things. So they're cleaning, capping, feeding, tending to queen. But notice here, back about day 7 or so, out here today, sort of 18 or so, they can do a lot of the things. But notice the overlap between them. There's not a clear, on day 7 you're this, and on day 8 you're this. So think of it as living systems tend to be analog, not digital. Way to say it. So the things are going to change. And here on the hive periphery, we're talking about periphery, at the bottom of the hive, where the nectar comes in, it's transferred, and at the very top of the hive, where the nectar and the pollen are stored, where they're working, and outside the hive. So think about these things. Is it in the hive center? This helps me to remember what's going on. What's going on in the hive center? You're making new bees, right? So everything associated with making new bees is going to be going on. What's going on throughout the hive? Homes being made, feeding nest mates, picking up the things that are coming in, and then going on the outside. Is this making sense? But the point is that there's an overlap between them, okay? All right, that's fine. One of the 4 hive locations where honeybees work and a task she does there, okay? All ages. Where one place that they work, there are 4 places on the left screen, 4 places they work, and one thing that they do there. Okay, first area is hive center. What goes on the hive center? Okay, so what are they doing? They're feeding, typically feeding nest mates, taking care of the queen. Yep, okay, good. Next area is throughout the hive. What are they doing there? Grouping nest mates, drawing comb. Okay. What are they doing then? In the periphery, top and bottom? Bringing resources in and offloading the workers so they can go back out and forage again. Where's this? Bee lifts, yeah. And the fourth area they're working is outside the hive. What are they doing there? Foraging for pollen, nectar. Protein is pollen. Nectar, water, and the resin that they use for making propolis. Resin. Okay. All right. Okay, the hive center. Those that haven't seen these things, these are eggs here. I don't see them very often. Okay, but that's what they look like. Okay. So they're standing on end. How did they get that way? We can lay them down that way with a little sticky stuff on the bottom, right? So what if you see an egg on the side of the wall? Either the queen has a problem or the queen didn't lay the egg, right? Okay. Now this is the larva. So this is here's the smallest larva here. You can see here. Okay. Probably about 2 days old. Back here, what is this white stuff? Yeah, that's gonna be the royal jelly, that we call royal jelly, Yep. Okay, notice that then this, so what I look for is this little C shape whenever I'm looking down into a cell. I can't see the egg, but I can see this little C shape, no matter what size it is. It makes it very different than the base foundation frame that's there. So it's a good way to see. Okay, feeding brood, capping brood, tending the queen. Wouldn't you love to have a queen to look like that? I mean, I like the designer yellow color on the queen there. Don't you like that? Actually, probably the result of a science experiment somewhere along the way. They colored the bees that way. But this queen would have a strong or a weak pheromone. Say strong. Yeah, the bees all want to touch her. Okay. And this pheromone is not volatile, so they must touch the queen. So they touch her with their antenna, typically. And then you'll notice that all these antennae are out here, all out touching her. So they'll take it and transfer it from bee to bee to bee to bee to bee to bee, all the way to the colony. Okay, that's how that works. All right, 0 to 10. Okay. Throughout the hive, they're grooming their nest mates. What are they grooming them for? Yeah, sometimes they'll take varroa mites off, exactly right. Any other parasite. Sometimes they'll groom pollen off the back. You know, you wonder how does the bee get pollen off the back? The nest mate helps her out along the way. They can also ventilate the hive. So this is what it looks like. Think swamp cooler now. Think shop fan with those core of water dripping down it. That's what you got going on here. So hot air heads on the outside, okay? Hot air, bees fanning, drops of moisture, cool air goes on into the hive. They can change out the air in the hive about every 2 minutes to change the entire colony of bees. Okay. Comb drawing, this is what it looks like. This is a bee actually on the outside of the hive, so you rarely see this picture. This is where the wax flakes are produced. Notice that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wax flakes from 8 different wax producing glands around the underside of her abdomen. So she will produce that wax in takes her about 24 hours, or do it, let's say it this way, once in 24 hours she can do it. She'll go, ah! Squeeze it out as a liquid. When it reaches the outside, it'll solidify and turn into the wax that we're familiar with. Over here, these are folks here that with their mandible and with their tarsal claws here are going to manipulate the wax. What do you notice about this wax that's maybe different from what you see in your colony? It's perfectly white, yeah? Why is that? No bee has walked on it before, right? So okay? Notice how rough it is? Okay? So these folks are just now building it. So when you put little flake on here, that flake is about that size right there, okay? So when you put all the little flakes together and mold them together, think Play-Doh, what you're working with. Squeezing the things together and meshing them together. It's not going to be perfect the first time you do it, but it'll eventually get there. Okay? Pretty fantastic. 8 to 18 years old, 8 days old when they're doing that. All right. Hive periphery, this is where what are these bees doing right here? No, they're not kissing. What are they doing? They're passing nectar back and forth. How did they do that? So one of them has a honey stomach here and is regurgitating the liquid that she got out of the field. This one is sucking it back in. Remember that their proboscis is a straw. It's like straw to straw here. She's taking it in and putting it into her honey stomach, which will then take up and go up to the upstairs area, and she will put it into the cell, where they will begin the rising process. So each time it passes through their salivary glands, they get a little dose of that enzyme. It begins to break the honey down, break the sugar down, bring sucrose to glucose to fructose. Storing nectar. Now why don't they store the pollen? They pack the pollen in, but why don't they actually store it? Why don't they take it in from the bees that are, when they come in, they're taking in nectar, but not taking in the pollen? Where's the pollen stored? How does it get in? Legs. Yeah, there's no way for that bee, if you're a bee, where are you going to carry a pollen pellet from the bottom of the hive up to the top? I'm going to let the bee who brought that in take it up there. So the ones that bring in the pollen actually climb all the way to the top. They'll kick it off into one of the cells. That's why the bees then come along behind her, these bees that are working in the periphery. They'll add a little drop of honey or nectar, and then they'll pack it in together. So how do you store pollen? that in 24 hours normally would mold. How do you store it? Is this cover it with wax? You could do that. You could mix honey with it, and you can have, what's gonna happen? It's gonna ferment. So if any of you had rows of cabbage at your house, 20 cabbages, 50 cabbages, what do you do with them? Store them? You make sauerkraut. So what is sauerkraut? Fermented cabbage. So how do you make bee bread? How do you store pollen? You ferment it. So that little bit of honey they add, or nectar they add, causes an enzymatic reaction to happen. There's actually bacteria there. In 5 days, the bacteria will consume the pollen and turn it into a storable bee bread that can stay in the hive for a long time. They eat that, yeah. And that's their protein source, right? Okay, all right? Outside the hive, they're going to guard the hive, remove the dead. Have you ever seen a bee carry a dead bee? That's what it looks like. At my place, my apiary is near our orchard. About 20 feet out, I was working in the orchard one day. Suddenly I get this blink in my chest. I look down, and here's this bee. And she is literally carrying her sister, who weighs as much as she does. And she's at this 3 or 4 foot level, having a difficult time navigating, as you might expect. Blinks off of me, goes around, drops her sister, goes back and gets the next one. So you'll have about 500 to 1,000 bees every night die in your hive. Okay? This is part of their cycle. When they forage, that's when they pack it. Isn't that beautiful? Okay. Question. How many flakes of wax does a worker produce at one time for everybody? Answer is 8. Exactly right. How many glands do they have to produce those? 8 glands. And where are they located? On the other side of it. You will never forget that, will you? Okay. All right. So what does this mean for you? This is actually a honeybee that I snapped this fall, or this spring. Actually, she's on our pear crop. Okay. So what does this mean for you? Enough science here. All right. Here's some things that are going to happen to you as a beekeeper on the left side. I want you to just shout out, what are you thinking about in this process? If you want to make a split, make 2 colonies out of 1, what are the things you need to think about given what you know now? What are you thinking about?
Resources.
Resources, like what kind of resources, Bob?
Honey and,
Okay, honey, pollen, frames of those, okay. All right, what else are you thinking about? Population, total numbers of bees, okay, you're thinking about that? Just any kind of bee? A honey bee.
2 words.
2 words, 2 words, 2 words. What else are you thinking about? Where am I going to get a queen? Or what does it take to make a queen? If you say we're going to let the bees make a queen, what does it take? What raw material do they need?
Royal jelly.
They'll need somebody that's producing royal jelly. What else will they need? They need a larva that's less than 3 days old, okay, preferably 18 hours old, okay. They need a larva, they need somebody to feed them, good. They need somebody to draw the wax. Those are different bees, okay. Here's the things I think about. Think about 8 medium frames of brood. We do medium 6. Because if I'm going to split, that means I'm going to take the resources from 1 colony and turn it into 2. If I don't have a minimum of 4 frames of medium frames or 3, I'm not going to have enough bees. If I can't take 2 frames of brood over here, put 1 over there, and 1 over there, there will not be enough bees to make it work. Okay? Young larvae, we talked about hive-centered bees available to feed the larvae. Now, here's the problem. Gave this recipe to a friend, and they decided to make their split. So they dutifully put over there 4 frames of brood, frame of pollen, frame of honey, a couple of comb frames, and nothing happened. They said, well, tell me exactly what you did. They said, well, I pulled the frame out with the brood on it, and I shook the bees off, and then I put them over here to the other hive. And I pulled out another frame, and I shook those bees off, and put them over here. So how many bees were over here as they split? Almost none. So there's nobody to do any of these jobs, right? So you gotta have the right bee to do the right job. So thinking about what it is you need here. Okay, good, got that one. All right, any drones? Why would drones be important if you're making a split? To make the queen that you're gonna get, right? So when are drones available? You can't buy them at Walmart. When are they available? Still do? Somewhere February, March usually about March they're available. How long are they available to? Which is till when? You haven't gotten there yet, but you still have drones, yeah. Probably about September. I'm already noticing the number of drones in my colonies are down. About September. Do you have equipment? You do realize that it takes a second set of equipment to make a split, right? Okay, not everybody grabs onto that one. And how many months before? Why would winter approaching be an issue to think about? They have to be able to prepare what, Elijah? The resources they have to have. So what do they need to make it through winter? Honey. How much honey do they need? A lot. About the equivalent of 10 frames of honey here in Northeast Texas, okay? All right. Well, those are the things I think about. All right, you were in the colony 10 days ago and you saw larvae there. What does seeing larvae mean? Probably means a queen, okay? We'll see that. You open the colony now, 10 days later, there's no larvae. What are you thinking about? May have gone queenless. What else are you thinking about? Could be. Okay, some of the things I think about is that, are there larvae less than 3 days old to create a queen in there? Are there any larvae there? No larvae. This colony is what we would call hopelessly queenless. Okay, it has no resources to make a queen. It has no queen. Until you intervene, this colony is going to die. Okay. You gave them frames of brood in all stages. Would that help this colony? Okay. So what I know now is that there are younger bees in there here because I saw larvae here. Now there's no larvae. There may be capped brood in here. So what does capped brood mean in 5 days? There could be emerging bees. What kind of bees are those going to be? They're worker bees, but where are they going to work in the hive? In the center, which is the nursery, which means they're going to produce royal jelly, which means that if I did this and gave them frames of brood, it could help. Good. Okay? Now are there hive center bees available? All right. Let's ask another question. Last in a colony 20 days ago, you saw a few larvae. Now you open there. You discover worker-laid drones or queen-laid worker larvae. First off, how do you know the difference between these two? Size of the cell. But they're all going to be probably in worker cells, worker-sized cells. That's not going to help you. You might have multiple eggs in there, but if you can't see eggs, there's multiple you usually can. You're right. You sound like a lady who has lots of experience in this. Okay. You may have drones emerging, but by that time it's pretty late in the process here. We're looking at the larva itself. How can you tell? What's the characteristic of queen-laid larva? It's in the center typically. It will stand up, the eggs will. To work out from there. How do you know you have a good queen? She lays a good pattern, right? So it's not spotty. So it's not spotty, it's going to start out from the center. If you have capped brood here, you have larvae out here, you probably have eggs out to the side of that. Those are characteristics you would not see in worker-laid larvae. They will be spotty, there will be 3 here, there will be 5 here, there will be 7 here. The bees will then also draw them out so that you have that characteristic bullet shape drawn on it. So that's a good way to know. So when you're looking at the larva, don't even only look at that you have larvae, look at where it is and how it's laid. I'll tell you, because I've had people call me, well, there's no larvae in my hive, and 2 weeks later they go, magic happened. There's larvae now in my hive. I'll just let them raise a queen from that. What's wrong with that? Yeah, the eggs that those workers lay they are not fertile eggs, they're haploid eggs. Okay, they do not have that, so this is going to lay in drone. Okay, they're not fertilized. Okay? All right. We got this problem. What are your considerations here? This is you. What are you thinking about? Yeah. This is why we say have 2 or 3 colonies of bees, because bad things do happen here. Okay. What else? What else are you thinking about?
Might need a new queen in there. so-
I'm gonna need a queen from somewhere, right? I may have to get her from somewhere else. Can the colony survive? No, they're hopelessly queenless, okay? Are the bees gonna resolve it on their own? No. So sometimes folks will say, well, let me just put the lid back on and magic will happen. No, it doesn't happen that way. So can I scrape off the excess drone brood here that the workers laid? Would that help the colony? Absolutely it does. Because they will raise those as normal drones, and that means they're going to commit resources to them. And all drones do is consume resources, but they have limited resources. Scraping off the excess drones will definitely help them. Makes a mess on your shoes, but it will definitely help them, yeah. Okay. So, we decided to combine the colony. What do you need? Strong queen-right colony to suppress the rebellion. Why do I call it rebellion?
Because once they start laying.
Once they start laying, they want to keep laying, right? Remember that whole definition of sociality up there? There's only one or two reproductives. All these folks are in rebellion now. Hey, we kind of like laying eggs. A little power trip going on, right? So if there's a strong queen, we'll put that down. Okay? All right, last one up here. Here's somebody at the bee club say, hey, I'm feeding my bees. Should you provide feed to your bees? What are you thinking about? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? Okay. Why would you need to feed bees? These are wild insects. Okay, my first year, my mentor delivered colonies of bees to me. And I said, now feed your bees, Roger. I said, I just read this YouTube thing. This guy did so on. I ain't feeding my bees, I ain't creating no welfare bees. So I said, I ain't creating no welfare bees. Well, I lost 2 colonies that first year because I didn't feed them. They didn't have enough resources to go through them. Okay, lesson learned. All right, so why would you feed them? Ask the question, are there pollen and nectar in the environment? There's no pollen and nectar. They can't go get it. They don't have a ticket to get into Walmart, okay? Are there outside bees available? If right now it's in February, there's not a whole lot of outside bees. Can they fly? 55 degrees, their wings don't work. So they can't fly. So maybe beautiful sun, maybe middle of March, but if it's 30 degrees outside, nobody's flying. Do they have enough resources right now? Most colonies are lost in that February to March timeframe because they have resources to make it through winter, but then brood production kicks in, and suddenly they're trying to make bees. If it takes about a cell of pollen and a cell of honey to make a bee, you're going to consume a bunch of pollen and honey along the way. Okay. All right, talked about etymology and etymologies. Honeybee. Why do we spell those 2 words, honeybee? Because it's a true bee, right? Sociality, superorganism, polytheism. Okay. All right, last question. What one new thing did you learn today? Share that with your neighbor. Polytheism. Polytheism. Temporal polytheism. Temporal polytheism. Okay. You learned 2 things, and I'm sorry. Too bad. Okay. Now you have some scraps of paper there. If you have a green scrap of paper, it goes into the green bowl. If you have a pink scrap of paper there, it goes in here. Okay? And if you have a white one, it goes into the white bowl. It has orange on the outside, okay? All right. Do that in every. So go ahead. If you would take and put your name or put your things in there, you're gonna have to get up and do that or collect it. I don't know how we do this. You can pass the bowl around. Okay. I think there's only a few.